He stood there, flour on his apron, hands trembling, while the entire dining room went dead silent. "Pack your knives and get out," the head chef barked, his voice slicing through the air louder than the sizzle from the open kitchen. Everyone heard it. Guests halfway through their anniversary dinners, servers frozen mid-step with wine glasses. Even the busboy near the restroom stopped moving. He'd just been fired, in front of everyone. And the worst part? He didn't even know what he did wrong. Before we dive in, if this story moves you, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. And if you haven't already, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell to keep the stories coming your way. Just a heads up, we don't just share stories here, we invite you to experience them. There's a little quiz at the end, just for fun. It's our way of saying thanks for watching closely and spotting the subtle moments others might miss. Be the first to answer. Don't let someone else steal your spotlight. His name was Darren Cole. At 24, he'd left behind a quiet life in Ohio to chase his dream of becoming a chef in New York City. He worked long hours for little pay, just to be part of something bigger, part of a kitchen that made magic happen 5 nights a week. But magic turned toxic the moment Chef Anthony walked in. The restaurant was called Marseille, all glass walls, mood lighting, and $28 appetizers. It was the kind of place that stayed fully booked 3 weeks out, where couples went to propose, where reviews were written in gold stars. But behind the swinging kitchen door, it was hellfire. The head chef, Anthony Delgado, ruled the kitchen like a tyrant. Every shift was a test. One missed sprinkle of thyme and you were a clown. Oversalt the sauce and you might not see the schedule next week. Darren tried to keep his head down. He wasn't the loudest. He wasn't the fastest. But he was precise. He respected food. And more than anything, he wanted to learn. One Thursday night, the rush was brutal. A VIP table had just ordered the tasting menu. 12 plates, all different, timed to perfection. Darren was manning the sauté station when the butter burned. He dumped the pan, grabbed a new one, started over. That's when it happened. Chef Anthony spotted the wasted ingredients. "You think you're in culinary school?" he snapped. "This is a business, not your personal practice kitchen." Before Darren could explain, Anthony grabbed the pan, hurled it into the sink, and screamed loud enough for the diners to hear. "You're done, fired, now!" And that was it. Darren Cole walked out the back door that night into the alley, his white coat still warm, heart pounding like a bass drum in his chest. He wanted to disappear, but something inside him, maybe pride, maybe pain, refused to let that be the end. He picked up odd jobs in lesser kitchens, cafes, food trucks, even catered a few weddings where guests barely looked up from their phones. But every shift, he learned something new. He watched, took notes, built his own recipes, quietly, obsessively, methodically. It took 7 years. 7 years of midnight shifts, food prep marathons, and rejection from investors who told him, no one wants another French-inspired concept. Until one finally said yes. The location? Just 2 blocks from Marseille. The name of his restaurant? Colette. No screaming chefs. No ego. Just thoughtful, intimate food that made people feel something. Opening night sold out in 48 hours. And guess who showed up? Chef Anthony. Hair thinner now, eyes skeptical. He sat alone in the corner. He didn't recognize Darren Cole. But when dessert hit the table, a reconstructed millefeuille with honeycomb and lavender cream, his fork froze. He looked up and finally asked the server, "Who's the chef here?" The server smiled and replied, "Chef Cole." And for a moment the old man went pale. He pushed his chair back, stood up, walked over to the pass, and saw Darren, now in black, not white, commanding a kitchen of his own. No yelling, just grace. And for the first time in their shared history, Chef Anthony said just 2 words. "Nice work." Darren Cole didn't reply. He simply nodded once, eyes steady, then turned back toward his plating station as if nothing happened. The moment should have felt victorious, redemptive. But it didn't. Because underneath the polished surface of Colette, not everything was healed. The kitchen was quieter than most, by design. Darren had built it that way, but quiet didn't mean calm. It meant tension simmered in other ways. A prep cook too scared to ask for help, a line chef trying to read his silences like scripture, and a pastry assistant who never quite made eye contact. Darren demanded excellence, but not out loud. He thought kindness would be enough, that not being Anthony would make him the kind of leader everyone respected, but respect wasn't always earned in silence. Later that night, after service ended and the team began to break down stations, Darren walked alone to the back patio. It was a small space, barely wide enough for 2 chairs and a potted basil plant, but it was his place to breathe. He didn't notice Amelia was already out there. She was one of his first hires, a sous chef with a reputation for fire and finesse. She had left a Michelin-starred spot uptown to work at Colette because she said she wanted to build something, not just maintain someone else's legacy. Now she sat with her sleeves rolled up, smoking a cigarette she swore she'd quit weeks ago. "You didn't say anything to him," she said, not turning. "I didn't need to," Darren replied, taking the other chair. "Yeah, well, maybe that's the problem." He looked at her. "What do you mean?" She flicked ash into a mason jar someone had turned into an ashtray. "I mean, you keep everything inside, Darren. You think we can all read your mind, but we're not in your head. We're out there, trying to guess if we're doing good or just not getting yelled at." That stung, more than he expected. "I didn't build this place to intimidate people." "I know, but silence can be just as loud." They sat with that. Just the hum of the fridge exhaust above them. Darren thought about his team, how often they hesitated before speaking, how no one ever laughed in his kitchen unless he wasn't around. He remembered one prep cook quitting by text, saying only, "I'm not good enough for your world." Maybe Anthony hadn't just left scars. Maybe he'd passed on habits. Amelia took a final drag, then stood. "You're not him, but you're still figuring out how not to be." She didn't wait for a response. The next morning, Darren walked through the doors of Colette before the sun came up. The air was cold inside, the kind of chill that seeps into stainless steel and holds its breath. He stopped in front of the pass and looked around. This kitchen was supposed to be different. A home for misfits, a haven for the overlooked. But somewhere along the way, he had started measuring everything against Marseille. The volume, the perfection, the prestige. Had he really built something new, or just recreated the same castle with different walls? The door chimed softly as someone came in early. It was Lucas, his newest hire, barely 20, eager but inconsistent, the kind of cook who made dishes beautiful one day and forgot the salt the next. Darren had barely spoken to him since his second week. Lucas paused when he saw him. "Hey, chef." "Hey." Lucas looked nervous, almost guilty. Darren decided to try something different. "Your plating last night, on the duck confit, it was tight. That reduction was glossy. Well done." Lucas's face lit up in a way that caught Darren off guard. "Seriously? Thanks. I didn't know if you liked it." "I did. I should have said it sooner." Lucas nodded, clearly holding back a smile, and just like that, the air in the kitchen shifted. But shifts are fragile. Later that week, Colette landed a write-up in the Times. 3 stars. The critic called Darren's food controlled emotion on a plate. That line alone drove reservations through the roof. But with attention came pressure. Amelia started pushing harder. Her plating critiques became harsher. A sous chef called out sick 2 nights in a row, and Lucas burned a tray of polenta so badly the oven smoked up mid-service. Darren snapped, not loudly, not in front of guests, but sharp enough for everyone in the kitchen to hear. "If you can't manage polenta, you shouldn't be on the line." Lucas froze. The entire kitchen did. No one spoke. The air tasted like embarrassment. Darren felt it instantly, the thing he'd feared most. The old ghost in the room. But it had come from his own mouth this time. After service, he went looking for Lucas. He wasn't in the locker room, not in dry storage, not on the back patio. Amelia found him finally, outside, across the street, sitting on the curb with his apron in his lap. "I don't belong here," Lucas said before Darren could even speak. "I'm not like you. I didn't go to culinary school, I learned on YouTube." Darren sat next to him, unsure of what to say. He wanted to fix it, to say the right thing, but nothing came. Lucas stood. "I'm gonna go. Thanks for the opportunity." And just like that, he was gone. Darren watched him disappear into the city that had once swallowed him whole. Later that night, Darren sat in his office staring at a photo taped to the wall. It was a black and white picture of the original Colette team. Amelia, the pastry lead, 3 others who had since quit. All of them smiling. They weren't smiling anymore. The door creaked open. Amelia stepped in, holding 2 espressos. She handed him one and didn't say anything for a while. Then, finally, "You can't fix everyone." "I know," Darren replied, "but you can't break them either." He nodded. Amelia stared at him, then added, "We're not trying to beat Marseille anymore, Darren. We were trying to build something human, something different." He looked down at his hands, calloused, shaking. "What if I don't know how?" She hesitated, then said something that pierced deeper than any critique. "Then maybe you're still cooking for the man who fired you, not the people who believed in you." That night, Darren stayed late, past midnight. He wrote notes. One for Lucas, an apology. One for the whole team, honest, not managerial. And one for himself, just 4 words. Let go, build better. But when he arrived the next morning to post the team note above the schedule, the kitchen was already alive with murmurs. Someone had leaked the critic's unpublished follow-up column. The review wasn't glowing anymore. Apparently, a source close to the restaurant said the kitchen was beautiful on the outside but fraying behind the scenes. That the chef was brilliant but detached and hard to follow. Darren's heart sank. Then he noticed something else. Under the article, someone had anonymously commented, "He's not angry, he's just scared of becoming who he hated." And Darren knew instantly who wrote it. Amelia. She never said it out loud, but she wanted him to see it. And maybe that was the point. That even when people don't yell, they're still saying something. Especially when they won't compromise. Especially when they won't speak. The story didn't end with the old chef's approval. It didn't end with stars or success or revenge. Because something deeper was still broken. And the person Darren needed to face wasn't across the pass anymore. It was the one holding the knife. That night, Darren Cole didn't sleep. He lay on his back in the dark, the city's sirens and distant horns weaving in and out of his thoughts like unwanted seasoning in a delicate broth. The article kept playing in his head, the comment, the truth in it. He remembered when he used to believe food could speak for him, when plating a dish was his language, his defense, his redemption. But what happens when your food is perfect, and your team still feels broken? When he walked into Colette the next morning, no one made eye contact. Even the air felt different. Colder, measured. The espresso machine hissed in the corner. Knives clanged against boards, but the energy had shifted, like everyone was waiting for something, or waiting for him. He stood by the prep counter and watched Amelia lead the morning briefing. She didn't acknowledge him, not with a glance, not with a nod. It was the first time since the restaurant opened that she'd taken that role without asking. He should have felt relieved. Instead, he felt replaced. Prep stations by 11:15. Pastry, you're 2 quiches short. Service starts at 5 sharp. No dead weight today. Her voice was calm, efficient, in control. Darren turned and walked back into his office, but left the door half open. He wanted to hear what they said when they thought he wasn't listening. He didn't have to wait long. "Do you think he'll change?" someone whispered. Amelia's voice came next, lower but still clear enough. "I don't know. He knows how to cook. I'm just not sure he knows how to lead." The silence that followed was heavier than anything Darren had felt in years. That afternoon, he sat across from Anthony Delgado at a small table inside a downtown cafe. The old chef looked thinner, more fragile in the daylight. His coat was replaced by a worn cardigan. But his eyes, those sharp, surgical eyes, still pierced through you. "You wanted to meet?" Anthony asked, sipping his tea without interest. "I need to understand," Darren said. "Understand what?" "Why you fired me, why you humiliated me. That night, it wasn't about the butter." Anthony smiled, but it wasn't warm. "You think there's a why? Darren, you think kitchens are fair? I fired you because I could, because I was tired, because the butter burned and it was easier to make an example out of someone than admit the system was broken." Darren leaned forward, voice low. "I built a place that would never do that to someone." "Congratulations," Anthony said, dry. "And yet here you are, asking the same questions I asked myself 10 years ago." Darren froze. "What do you mean?" Anthony looked out the window, watching the traffic crawl past. "I wasn't always like that, but it creeps in. The pressure, the critics, the fear that your best dish is already behind you, so you demand more. From everyone, especially the ones who remind you of yourself." Darren swallowed hard. "I hired people like me," he whispered. "People who needed someone to believe in them." Anthony's eyes flicked back. "And then you made them afraid of disappointing you, just like I did." There it was. No rage, no redemption, just a quiet confession in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon. Darren didn't thank him, didn't stand up dramatically. He just nodded once and left the cafe without finishing his drink. That night, Amelia was waiting by the back exit when he returned to Colette. "You met with him," she said. It wasn't a question. Darren didn't deny it. "Yeah." She crossed her arms. "Did it help?" He thought about lying, about saying it gave him clarity, but the truth sat heavier in his chest. "I don't know." She nodded, and for a moment, they just stood in the alley, the soft hum of refrigeration units filling the silence. "You're bleeding people, Darren," she said finally. "I know. And I'm tired of pretending we're fine." "I know." Her voice dropped. "And I'm not sure how much longer I can help hold it all together." That hurt more than anything Anthony had said. "You're not just my sous chef," Darren said. "I used to believe that," she replied. "But lately, I'm starting to feel like your lifeboat." He stepped closer. "Then tell me what to do." Amelia's eyes were tired. "I can't keep rescuing this place from itself. I've done my part. The question is, can you change the way this ship sails, or are we just going in circles until it sinks?" She left before he could respond. That night, Darren walked the floor of Colette after closing, his fingers grazing the backs of chairs, the wood grain of the tables. Every corner of the restaurant carried a memory. Lucas's first perfect risotto, the night the power went out and they served candlelit desserts, the fundraiser where they raised $20,000 for the food bank. But none of those memories could protect him from the truth. He had built a beautiful place where no one felt safe enough to stay. He stood in front of the framed review near the entrance, the one from the first year, the glowing write-up that made them feel invincible. He took it off the wall, turned it over, and with a marker, scribbled a single line on the back. "This is not the point." He put it back on the wall, backward. The next morning, the team noticed. Some laughed, some were confused. Amelia walked past, saw it, and didn't say a word. but she didn't take it down either. During prep, Darren called a meeting. Everyone gathered reluctantly, half expecting another scolding, another push for perfection. He stood in front of them, no clipboard, no chef coat, just a plain t-shirt and jeans. "I read the follow-up review," he said. "I saw the comment." No one moved. "I've been trying to run from a ghost, and in doing that, I turned into something I swore I'd never be." He paused. "I haven't made space for mistakes, for questions, for growth that's not tied to execution." Someone coughed. Darren continued, "I can't promise to be perfect, but I can promise to start listening better, talking more, and leading with more than just standards." He looked at Amelia. "At least if you're still willing to help me figure it out." She didn't answer right away. Then, slowly, she stepped forward. "I'll give it a month," she said, "but I'm not here to babysit." A small smile crept into Darren's face. "I wouldn't expect you to." They all went back to work, but the air was different. Still cautious, still unsure, but not silent. Later that day, Darren checked his email. One new message. Subject line, reservation request. It was from Lucas. Just 5 words, "Is there still a spot?" Darren sat back in his chair, and for the first time in weeks he exhaled, slow and long. But as he moved to reply, a new notification popped up. An alert from the building's management system. A lease inquiry had been submitted by Anthony Delgado for the vacant space directly across the street. Sometimes the kitchens we build to heal become the very places where old wounds resurface. Darren Cole thought success would silence the past, that building a better version of what once broke him would be enough. But leadership isn't just about better food or a quieter tone. It's about choosing, moment by moment, not to repeat the pain you once survived. And sometimes, the hardest person to forgive isn't the one who hurt you. It's the version of yourself who kept carrying it forward. So as Darren stares down the ghost of his former mentor, this time from across the street, the real question isn't who runs the better restaurant. It's who's finally ready to lead without fear. If this story stirred something in you, if you've ever had to unlearn who you became just to survive, let us know in the comments. And hey, if you haven't already, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss what's coming next. We've got more chapters ahead, and trust me, it only gets deeper from here. And remember, there's always a quiz at the end. Be the first to answer. Don't let someone else steal your spotlight. Until next time, stay curious, stay human. Quiz. How many times did we mention Darren Cole in this story?